Welcome to our latest episode of Tiger Bytes. We're here with Mark Traynor, who's a food safety expert. And this is a topic that I think just about everybody can relate to in some form or fashion. Tell you a quick story. I grew up in Pennsylvania. There's actually two guys in my graduating class that came to college at Auburn. And a couple of years ago, I managed to get some tickets in the president's box for this friend and myself. And so he drives down or flies to Atlanta, drives down from there. He calls me up. He's like, "Hey, I'm in a town called LaGrange. Where should I eat?" I said, "There's a Chick-fil-A. Stop at the Chick-fil-A." So he gets to the Chick-fil-A. There's a big long line. So I don't want to get sued. So I'm not going to say the restaurant right next door that he went to that had no line. But he went to the store with no line. And the next day we're at Rock and Roll Pinball. And he suddenly breaks out in a cold sweat.
Yeah.
And he spent the whole weekend in our guest room. And I took somebody else to the president's box. So he had clearly gotten food poisoning by being impatient and going to this other restaurant.
That can happen.
Yeah. So this topic, I think, is just fascinating.
Yeah.
But before we started recording, you mentioned that you're from Ireland. So I'm curious how you ended up in Auburn, Alabama from Ireland.
I don't sound like I'm from East Alabama.
No.
Well, I'm originally from Ireland, from Dublin, which is the capital. So I grew up there, did all my education there, and then I was doing a PhD back home in Dublin Institute of Technology, and I used to come over here to the States to conferences, to present at conferences, and I got to know someone, Michael Chang, at Southwest Minnesota State University. And he had recruited me to apply for a position there, but just as I was finishing my PhD. So really, I got lucky with that. So I was in Minnesota, in Marshall, Minnesota, which is the home of Schwann's Food Company, if you're familiar with that. Yeah, it's a small little town about 3.5 hours southwest of from what's the capital again? I'm forgetting now the bloody capital of Minnesota. St. Paul. Yeah, there we go. There we go. Finally, it came to me. And then I was there for 2.5 years, and then I went down to Florida International University. And he was down there too, and he actually became the dean down there. So I was down at the hospitality school down there, and then I've been at Auburn about 6 years now.
Okay.
Yeah. So I've been living and working here for 6 years with my family. We're loving it here. We're loving the weather. It's a bit different to down in Miami where I was. It's very different to where I was in Minnesota, and it's extremely different to Ireland. Yeah. Although they're having some nice weather in Ireland at the moment, but it's to be back to normal from tomorrow onwards. Which is cold and wet. Too. So so I'm the director of the culinary program here at the Horst Schulze School of Hospitality Management, and I wouldn't describe myself as a food safety expert, but I teach food safety sanitation, or I know a lot about it. I've studied it in college, and then as a practitioner in the industry too, and also I've been teaching it here as well. So I'm not a microbiologist by that sense, but I would be quite knowledgeable. And your story that you started with is very interesting, because although your friend and you might associate the place that he ate as the source of the food poisoning, it most likely is not. Because and that's a common mistake. It's because when we're sick and we think about where's the last place we ate, and then also you throw up sometimes, and you see there's the last meal that you had, but typically it's actually a few days before that.
Oh, interesting.
So yeah. So and also you might eat something, you might see, it tastes a bit off. That usually doesn't associate with actual foodborne illness. So when food tastes bad, it's not necessarily that the food is dangerous in that sense, although it can be. But you're not going to taste listeria or E. coli or salmonella or something like that, or norovirus or whatever your friend probably most likely norovirus, the vomiting bug. They take about 2 to 5 days, after you ingest it for it to actually you start getting symptoms. So.
Is it difficult to teach students about food safety and sanitation? What aspects do they find most challenging to learn about?
Yeah, it is. I'm not gonna lie, it is. And when I say this to people, they kind of they kind of sit back, I say it because it's not the most glamorous topic to teach about. It's very detailed, very science oriented. It's students do struggle, to be motivated to learn about it. It's because it's not the most glamorous
Mm,
topic that we're teaching in terms of hospitality management, but it's probably, well, it is one of the most important. It's one of our, we have five student learning outcomes, and the number two on it is food safety and sanitation. So it's super, 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 super important, and we want all our students to graduate with their ServSafe certification for the food manager. Um, but yeah, I mean, like when you're trying to do a lecture, and you're trying to find some sort of practical application where the students can maybe relate to, because maybe some of them don't work in the industry, that can be challenging. But some of it is to do with concentrations of sanitizers, which is super important. So learning different concentrations of sanitizers and different types of sanitizers, learning about the heights of equipment off the floors or off counters, learning about pest control and all that sort of stuff. That can be quite, it's not the most, again, exciting thing to learn about. So historically, yeah, it's known to be something that's not something that students are motivated to learn about. And as an instructor, it's difficult, it's challenging to try and find ways to make it engaging and I don't want to use the word entertaining, because it doesn't always have to be entertaining, but something that the students,
keeps their attention.
keeps their attention, keeps them engaged and active learning. So it can be a challenge, and the exam itself is quite challenging.
Mm,
It's a 90 question multiple choice.
mm,
And for me, when I'm doing it, I'm looking at the answers, and I'm looking at them and I'm thinking, like, all these answers are correct. I would, you take all these steps. Like, this is I mean, but it's like, what is the most correct
mm,
answer? And because yeah, they'll ask questions, and you look at all four and they all seem logical, that I wouldn't do this, or I throw away that, or but there is a correct answer in there. So it can be, the exam itself can be challenging. You've got like 30 to 40% of people, like, again, this is historically across the country, have to retake the exam. So the failure rate can be, it's
mm.
relatively high. So that kind of speaks to it as well.
So, how have you used online tools to try to make this material more engaging, if not even possibly entertaining?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I said it was a few years ago. I came across this Auburn. It was a AUX. It was immersive learning
Mm,
experiences grant. I think it was about 3 years, about 3.5 years ago. I came across that, and that kind of just sparked an idea in my head. Like, I was thinking about, how can I take this topic that is so essential, that is challenging to teach and challenging to learn, and make it somewhat engaging. So I had an idea. I went to they had a little seminar, kind of a town hall meeting to discuss these grants. It was a brand new grant at university, and I asked some questions, and I kind of got connected with the right people who are experts in technology. I'm not. I use technology. But I'm in no way, at the level of the people who I work with on this project. And I start bouncing ideas off them, and I put together a proposal, which was to work with virtual reality or virtual simulation, to try and take something that is from a lecture class, and make it hands-on and engaging. So that was where the kind of the idea came. And the initial idea was huge, and I was very naive, think I could do you know all this in one grant.
right.
Like, anyway, I said, oh, we did this, step one, and we're gonna have a step two and a step three. And the reality is, we did step one. But not only did we do step one, I thought step one was going to be X, Y, and Z, but actually it turned out to be A, B, C, D. It turned out to be a
Mm.
lot more holistic, and there was a lot more involved in it. And I think it would turn into a better product. And that was, I felt like I had a really fantastic team to work with. The initial team, and then we had a second team that we started up for the second phase of the project. So yeah, so I was lucky that I got selected for this grant, to start working on it. And then myself, and Ali and Amy Conway and Ali Satiri, got together, and we worked every single week for months and months on end on building this, and trying to make it as engaging as possible for students.
So, I've seen a little bit of this. It
Yeah.
looks like it's 360 degrees in a
Yeah.
kitchen, and you can scan around and click on certain hotspots, and it'll give you information about what's going on there and what the expectations
Yeah.
ought to be.
Yeah, well, that was my initial idea. So that was what I was talking about. Like this, when I initially put the proposal together, that I would make this virtual simulation. It was 360, and then eventually it would be VR, with the headsets, and that's all. And I would say that's all it was going to be, and it was kind of like going to be a game and whatnot.
Mm.
But then when I got together with Amy and Ali and we started working on it, it was a lot more than that. So that's a component of it. It really is a Canvas learning module, or well, modules, so, but it's a module in itself, I guess, on Canvas, with 10 different modules, all pertaining to different aspects of their SurfSafe curriculum. Uh, um, so yeah, one component of it is this 360 panoramic, where you're immersed in real world environment, which actually is the Rain Culinary Science Center. So we got 3D renderings
Oh,
from
neat.
that, which was very helpful because that was already created for marketing purposes. And then Ali did all his magic on adding different textures and whatnot to it. So yeah, it's a it's our actual building, it's our restaurant, our teaching restaurant, the 1856 teaching restaurant. It's our loading bay, it's our refrigerators, it's our dining
Mm.
room. So the students are in that lab anyway, and then from home, for homework activities or in classroom activities, they're able to immerse themselves in there too, and yeah, engage with different scenarios. So again, we've set up different scenarios, and we try to make it real world as possible. And students have to critically think and problem solve, and engage with different scenarios there. And we try to thread a storyline through it too, because some components of the content didn't lend themselves very well to creating or to creating virtual simulation scenarios or whatnot. Um, so we have some kind of animated activities where there's a voiceover, people talking, and there's some sort of a scenario, and then the students have to, you know, deal with whatever questions are thrown at them when it comes to that particular scenario. So you talked about your friend and whatnot becoming ill. So that was like one of our scenarios where a husband called and to the restaurant, the restaurant manager, who is Amy Conway's the voice for that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And Roland, I believe, is on the other side of the line. Uh, um, and there's a scenario that the wife, who is immune compromised,
Mm.
ate at a restaurant a few nights ago. It was the only place they ate out at, and she became ill. And I think maybe she been hospitalized and whatnot. And then the question is, the first question is this person part of a high risk group? And the answer will be yes, because
Right.
this person's immune, compromised. And then then it goes on for a little bit more conversation, and another, and then that kind of threads out through several of the modules, where it could be like a situation where they identified that a chef didn't sanitize and clean some equipment properly, and there was what we call cross contamination, which is
Mhm.
probably the most common source of foodborne illnesses or whatnot. You're looking at cross contamination. So that again, going back to the food handler, this is where we can prevent maybe 90% of foodborne illnesses, and outbreaks and whatnot, is steps taken by a food handler. And that's all along the food supply chain. But I mean,
Right.
I'm talking about in service, in food service, in restaurants or in catering or whatnot, where we can take measures to minimize hazards and risks.
So are
Yeah.
you a Seinfeld fan by any chance?
I'm not. No,
Have you seen the famous food safety episode?
no, I haven't. I haven't, unfortunately.
So, the star, Jerry,
Yeah, yeah,
he's on a date, and his date's father owns this restaurant, which is very renowned and
yeah.
famous for great food. So Jerry's in the bathroom. The owner comes out of the stall, bypasses the sink, and says, "Jerry, I'm going to make your pizza personally tonight. You're in for a special treat." and of course he's absolutely
Oh god.
horrified.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
you
yeah.
need to check that
I do.
out.
It's not that I'm not a fan. I haven't really watched it. I'm a fan of Larry David and
Mm,
Curb Your Enthusiasm. So I know it's similar. Well, obviously he created Seinfeld
right,
and
right.
whatnot. But yeah, I must get into it. I know there's many seasons of it. But yeah, that's an example there
Yeah.
of a food handler. Yeah. So that's a massive problem there too
And of
with that.
course, there's always that sign in the
Yeah,
bathroom:
yeah.
staff must wash their
Which is a
hands.
legal requirement to have that sign
Yeah,
in there. And again, there's washing your hands and there's properly washing your hands.
right. How
So
long should somebody wash their hands
yeah.
for?
I mean, it should be at least, well, you're talking about 20 seconds of actually washing off. But I mean, again, I'm forgetting exact numbers, but there's steps involved with it. So that's a part of our simulation, our second version of the project, which is with a headset. So our students have to put on a virtual reality headset
Mm,
and walk over to a sink, and then they follow the steps, and there's a timer. So they have to first of all wet their hands. They have to get some soap, and they have to lather it up. And I'm forgetting off the top of my head, exact numbers. I usually go over anyway. I go well over the time myself because I'm a bit of a germ freak when it comes to that. I'm always washing my hands and whatnot. So then they're going to wash their hands for until the timer stops and tells them
mm.
to stop, and then they're going to rinse with warm water again till the timer says to stop. And they also have to wash up their forearms or whatnot too. And then they got to dry their hands, and then they have to actually put the paper towel into a trash can. So that's we've kind of created that so to teach people how to wash hands, because some people just splash their hands with a bit of water,
Right.
wipe it on their pants, and walk out. Like that's not
I wash
washing your
my
hands.
hands.
Yeah, that's not washing your hands. And
Yeah.
so I guess what was it with when COVID happened? I guess you were saying sing the happy birthday song. I don't know if you said
Right.
sing it once or twice, but
Right.
for me anyway, I'm washing my hands and washing them, and that's the first thing I do to students. We come into my labs, we start checking, make sure everyone has recipes. But before we do anything, it's okay. Everyone line up, wash your hands, and then even when you're wearing gloves. So this is like some stuff you think you're wearing gloves, the single use gloves, and you take it off. You just dealt with some meat or some shellfish or whatnot, and you don't need to wash your hands. You think no, you need to wash your hands. The
Mm,
gloves are not a replacement for washing your hands. You're really wearing gloves when you're dealing with RTE foods, the ready to eat foods. So that's why I make sure my students, when they're cleaning up their dishes, okay, we're going to wear gloves too. But again, it's not a substitute for washing your hands. But yeah, washing the hands is a big one. That's like one of the and then keep your nails short. You're not wearing acrylic nails or false nails and stuff like that too, because you've got the biological hazards, which is the most common. That's the most common. That's what produces your foodborne illnesses. But you've got physical and chemical
hmm.
contaminations too. So jewelry, fingernails, band-aids coming off, all these different things. You got to focus on. Even bones in fish, like for instance, like that's a physical contaminant. The bone is not supposed to be in there. It's a contaminant, chemical contamination. So people cleaning down. So we teach the students how to clean. So you're removing the dirt initially first. You're using soapy water to clean it, and you're drying that off. You're rinsing that. Then you're drying that off. Then you're sanitizing, and
Hmm.
you're letting it air dry. So these are the steps that we follow. And you're doing that after completion of tasks. Like, so it's not just at the beginning or the end of class. I'm working with we were working with chicken last week. You're working with chicken. Now you're gonna start working with vegetables. Everything needs to be sanitized. Hands need to be washed. Knives need to be cleaned. Change color to color coded chopping boards. Sanitize everything. So it's teaching people that from the get go, and the fundamentals classes, and then having them do that in the industry is key. And that's where we can then trust walking into a restaurant, which is what we have to do. You have to, because it's
Right.
it's out of our control as a guest, really. So yeah.
So I'm just curious, with a new restaurant,
Yeah.
would you be wary of a new restaurant? Like maybe they haven't trained everybody fully and completely. Maybe they need to work out some kinks in their system. Conversely, would you think, hey, brand new restaurant, they're probably going to be very precise with the rules. This is actually the best time to
Yeah.
eat.
Yeah, well, again, it all depends on the experience of the people who are owning or running the restaurant, and if they're opening just another chain or another unit of their restaurant, but it's the first time owning the restaurant. I mean, typically, I would wait a while for them to work out their operational
Mm,
kinks too, because I don't want to be standing there for 40 minutes waiting on them,
right.
and they run out or whatnot too. So yeah, I'm usually kind of give them a few weeks to figure it out too. And the same if I was running a restaurant, yeah, I'd need to figure out, not just figuring out their own operations, but figuring out when are they going to be busy, when are they not going to be busy. And that takes a while to work with, because that's when people are busy and flustered,
Mistakes happen.
mistakes
Yeah.
happen, and they can cut corners, that kind of way. So yeah, I tend to give it a little bit of time. Yeah.
I won't mention the name of the restaurant,
Okay.
but in Opelika, I went to opening day,
Yeah.
and my salad ended up with a piece of a rubber glove in it.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, yeah. And that can happen. That can happen. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's
And the
yeah,
thought was, well, maybe we shouldn't have come the
yeah,
first day. They got to
yeah,
work the
yeah,
kinks out.
yeah. That can happen, and that's it. When you asked about types of food and whatnot, like
Mm.
it's people automatically. I'm kind of going off tangent here, but
No, it's fine.
people kind of automatically think certain types of food are the dangerous ones. So, for instance, in 2024, McDonald's had a major foodborne illness issue. They had
With
you had
onions.
with onion. There you go. Thank you. So onions. It was E. coli issue. One person died. Like 90 people got ill. Um, and it must be the quarter pounder. It must be the meat. It must be the meat. It must be the meat. But no, it was the onion. So that onion, was, I think it was a new supplier or whatnot. It was a new component to the dish, and again, it wasn't going to be cooked, so there was no opportunity to eliminate whatever. Well, it was E. coli. It turned out to be bacteria or microorganism from it, and that was the issue. You know what I mean? And that happens. That's quite common. Like it's the lettuce, it's the tomato, it's the
Right.
onion or whatnot. People think, oh no, it's the beef, it's the beef. It's most likely not the beef, because that beef is
Mm.
probably cooked to 155 degrees or 160 degrees.
Right.
For at least 15 seconds or whatnot. So the bacteria has been reduced, or I keep saying bacteria. The microorganisms have been reduced or have been eliminated, but it's the other components too. So you know, so yeah, that turned out to be the big issue with that. Again, you can just Google, you can look across, and if you go to the CDC website, they have a whole database of foodborne illness outbreaks and whatnot, and you can look at it happens, it happens
Right.
across the country, and it happens every day. So yeah.
So you've gone through 2 rounds of
Yeah.
developing the online resources. Is there a third step you have in mind?
Um, or we're kind of meeting maybe next week or the week after the thing. I mean, yeah, there is, I would like to commercialize, and that wasn't
Mm.
necessarily initially, the goal of it. The goal was to create more immersive, engaging, active learning for our students in Auburn, not just in the Horst Schulte School, but also any other students across campus, like the nutrition and dietetic students. They also do Serve Safe certification, and they've used it too. Um, so getting it to a wider audience would be nice, and that might involve commercializing it. So we kind of looked at the different steps on that too. Um, Also fine tuning it. It was very much a prototype. I mean, it's worked. We've seen pass rates from our students go from like roughly around 62% to 82%. So we've seen it jump, and we've had positive feedback, and we've had some other feedback from students that we've got to tweak a few things. In particular, we're really just testing now, or we haven't even done full testing of our fully immersive virtual reality with the headset. So we're looking to kind of collect more data on that, because that's very different to the first iteration. The first version is web browser based. So if you have a tablet, if you have a phone, if you have a computer, you can do this program. You can work in our modules completely. Whereas the VR requires virtual reality headsets, which is a barrier in itself to getting into more people, because they're very expensive, and you need a lot of them. We've got a class of 100 students. So we want to work out. We want to do a bit more testing on the virtual reality, the fully immersive version of it, and see what we can tweak with that. But yeah, it would be great to commercialize the web based. We call it VSC, the virtual simulation environment. It'd be great to be able to commercialize that and get that across to as many people as possible. I've been in talks with Extension here at the university, and about that too. And there's some companies, some food service companies have spoken to us, and they're interested in it too, because again, getting especially fast food, a lot of their staff are going to be high school kids.
Lot of
Yeah, a lot,
turnover
yeah, a
too.
lot of turnover, and as I said, my my daughter did the Surf Safe certification at the high school, and she also works in the fast food. And her first job, she's only 15 years of age, uh, um, and getting the people like that to be not just interested, but to be concerned enough to not cut corners and whatnot when it comes to food safety and sanitation is important. Um, so we've talked to some companies who may be interested in, you know, licensing or modifying what we've produced too. So yeah, it would be nice to get it. I think that's the final part, is really to get it out there to the masses and not just here. But that takes time.
Well, this is a fascinating topic, and just more generally, I really appreciate what the hospitality program does for Auburn. At
Yeah,
least in my mind, it's a real showcase
thank you.
program for the university. I've had the good fortune to get to the Masters a couple times,
Oh,
and
nice.
I've been really impressed by how many Auburn students I've met working over there and
Yeah,
providing amazing service
yeah.
to the patrons.
Yeah, well, right now as we speak, that's where they are. We've got
Right.
about, actually, I can't remember the numbers. Over 100 students, I believe now. I think Augusta, they recruit from about four programs, Auburn being
Georgia,
one of them.
South Carolina.
Yeah, yeah. So we have an amazing relationship with them. My colleague David Martin, Dr. David Martin, he takes care of that relationship, and he's really developed it over the years, and he's done a fantastic job. And it's just an amazing opportunity for students. But again, that's an
Oh, yeah.
opportunity for students to take what they learn in our labs and in our lectures and on our virtual simulation one, and put it into practice, and also take it from one environment and be experience it in a different environment. So because that's I don't know how many patrons go to the masters or whatnot, but there's a lot of people coming there, and there's a lot of food outlets
Oh, yeah.
that
Oh,
pop
yeah.
up that are so it's catering. It's nearly like catering off site there too. So it's very different to what they're getting in 1856 teaching restaurant, or if they're working in dining services, or they're working across, so it's great for them to get that experience. But yeah, it's fantastic. And I said, like, the second version that we've created, like, that involved a bit more expertise than what I had. So I brought on board my colleagues of Dr. Demi Dang, Dr. Alicia Douglas, and Dr. Yiming Lee. They came on board, and they got expertise in virtual reality. Dr. Lee is very much so an expert with food safety and sanitation. So just having a great team at the school to work together, to benefit our students was fantastic. Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining us today on Tiger Bites. And I think anybody who watches this or listens will learn a heck of a lot
I
about
hope so.
food safety.
Yeah. All right.
I sure have.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Tiger Bites. We hope you enjoyed the conversation and gained some valuable insights. Please like, subscribe, and share this podcast with your friends and colleagues. You can find us on all major platforms, and keep learning, keep growing, and we'll see you next time on Tiger Bites.